Feldco Football REKAP Live is brought to you by Feldco. For quality windows, siding, and doors, call 866-4FELDCO, Chicago's home renewal experts. Your Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Chevy dealers, the official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. Hooters. At Hooters, originality isn't just one thing, it's everything. World-famous wings and more, served up by the iconic Hooters girl. Hooters, always original. Dr. Pepper, an American original just like our Chicago Bears. Grab an ice-cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. Special Olympics Illinois. Special Olympics Illinois, so I did. Learn more at SOILL.org. Take that.
Hey, welcome into a special edition of Feldco Football REKAP Live. Not often you get to talk to a future Hall of Famer and a guy who knows every nook and cranny in the Bears building. And with the news today that Matt Eberflus is done, fired as the head football coach and defensive play caller, I get to talk to my guy, Olin Kreutz. Olin, I don't think we're shocked that they pulled the plug on him. Thomas Brown as the head coach. I guess it's an audition. That kind of concerns me. But your thoughts when you heard that Eberflus was out?
And we want to let people know you didn't move on from Tom Waddle. He was just busy today, right? Tom was just, you didn't fire.
No, Tommy's busy.
Listen, it's not surprising, right? It's just obviously you want to say you're surprised, but you're not. The way they had him do the press conference and come up and speak to the media twice, and then they decide to fire him. But after you watch that game, and especially because it was nationally televised, and they're taking a lot of heat nationally, Cap. Everyone's on this, right? Everyone who's anyone at ESPN, and they're competing for who has the best tweet about how insane the end of the game, play calling, and not using the timeout was. And if you go all the way back to the Washington Commanders game, and you go back to Eberflus's record, no one is shocked today that Coach Eberflus is fired by the Chicago Bears. Obviously, the Bears have never done this. That's why guys like me and you who've been around here a long time, we're like, yeah, but probably not. They probably won't fire Eberflus and let this keep going on. But, man, when you look at this building, when you look at the guys who got to replace him, when you look at how many coaches have been fired in the last 2 years, I mean, it's pretty depressing to look at what's going up there at Halas Hall. And eventually, someone in the leadership role, but we've been saying this for a long time, needs to stand up and say, man, we got to do things a different way. We got to take a look at the way we actually do things, the way we actually get to who's in charge. I talked to my friend John Quint down there in Columbus, Ohio. We were talking about something else the other day, but he explained to me what the Peter principle is. You know what that is?
I've heard of it.
When people are really good at their jobs and they get elevated to a position where they're not good at their jobs. And the Bears are right now, they are showing you what the Peter principle is in full. You're full effect. Because remember now, Eric Washington is a defense coordinator by title only. He is not the defense coordinator at Halas Hall. That job belonged to Coach Eberflus. And for everything he was bad at, he was a good defensive coordinator. He was really bad at game management, which why Cap, like, I don't know about you, but I'm just shocked they never found anyone to help him with that part of being a head coach.
So when you look at where the franchise is now, and unfortunately, with the exception of the stability that Lovie Smith provided, we've seen Wannstedt to Duran, a good chunk for Lovie, Trestman, Fox, Nagy, Eberflus. I mean, why should we believe that they're going to get this hire right? And will they pay the amount of money it would take to get the right guy? Like, for example, I was told by someone who is close to him that Bill Belichick, who's already had Jacksonville reach out about potentially coming there, he would be interested in coming to the Bears, but things would have to be set up in a certain way. For me, I don't want him involved in personnel, and he would want, to have his systems and the way he does things, the Bears would have to acquiesce. What do you think?
That kind of thinking outside the box is what they need, right? That kind of shake up there at Halas Hall. Change the way you're hiring people, change the way you're doing things. Uh, Coach Eberflus, obviously, I don't think even he'd get a year or two away from this. Even he would argue that it was his time to get fired. With all the things we heard from players and all, like lost the team, it just seemed like he did with comments after the game. Keenan Allen saying, "Well, the players did everything they could to win the game." Right, a direct shot at the head coach. You start hearing those things, but the guys there too now, like Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. What did they do on this process of hiring the coach? What did they do in the process of keeping the head coach? In the process of hiring Shane Waldron as office coordinator? The process of elevating Thomas Brown. Remember, as excited as everybody is Thomas Brown, the same people have elevated him to the position of head coach after having a passing coordinator, after making him offensive coordinator. So somebody like a Bill Belichick now, I would take a Bill Belichick from 10 years ago. I don't know where he is right now in coaching, energy, changing a whole franchise around, which would have to be done here. Well, we talk a lot about culture, Cap. Well, you have to define what you mean by culture, right? Define it by saying like, the guy walks in the building and he doesn't accept anything less than what looks like winning football games, right? He asks people to do their job, honest with them, get in their face. We always hear about the collaboration up there at Halas Hall, the way they're doing things. It again, I swear we were just doing this 2 or 3 years ago, Cap. But again, it does not work the way Halas Hall approaches their problem solving situations that they have.
So, in terms, you and I are very, very good friends, very close. If
Mm-hmm.
I was a football coach, let's
Mm-hmm.
say I'm an accomplished coach somewhere else and I'm a free agent, and I called you and said, Olin, you and I are tight. I've just got a chance to get the Bears job. Should I do it? What would you say to me?
I would say make sure you get what you want there. Make sure you have the control over the things you want to control in that building. I would tell them, Cap, exactly what I've told other coaches before they took jobs in that building. It's a hard place to win, and you're going to have to figure out how to win. It's a big market. It's a big market there in Chicago. It's different than a lot of places you go to, and you have to understand that as you approach this building, as you go into Halas Hall. Players, you're going to have to pick who are the right leaders on your football team. You have to identify them. If Coach Eberflus ever asked me what I thought he did wrong, I thought he picked the wrong players as leaders for this football team in Illinois, in Chicago. The Chicago Bears, it's a different place to win football games. It's a little harder. All these big market teams struggle, right, Cap? You look at New York. They're all struggling up there. They struggle here. There's so much attention on your football team, on the football coach, on the quarterback. Everything is talked about. Guys like me and you, we have 90 shows to do. Everybody wants the Bears do something wrong. I mean, the ESPN guys are tripping over themselves to break down the film, to talk about the Chicago Bears. Why? Because that's where they get their most feedback. That's where they get the most interaction. It just is a different job. And if you're not going to admit to that, you're not going to admit to how hard it is to win here, how it is to change the culture, how you got to get everybody in that building moving in the same direction, doing the right things to win, then you are going to start behind the 8 ball, and eventually, like everybody else, you're going to get fired, and you already have. There's a saying in the NFL: good quarterbacks get guys hired, bad quarterbacks get guys fired. And Caleb Williams is not a bad quarterback by any means. He's really not. But 2 coaches have been fired. 2 coaches have been fired since he's been a starting quarterback for Chicago Bears.
It's a fair point. So, in terms of looking at the strengths of this job, as you mentioned, big market, historic franchise, looks like you have that dude at quarterback that you've got to continue to develop. What are the strengths about the job? We can imagine the weaknesses.
Yeah, just what you just said, right? Like, I remember talking to a coach years ago, and he would ask me, "What do you think about going in there to coach?" And I said, "Man, you know what it takes to win there. You know how hard it is to win in that building, how to change the culture, how to keep everybody moving in the right direction." And we ended with, "But it is Chicago, man. It is the best city with the best fan base. It is the Chicago Bears with their history, with their aura of the NFL. If you could ever win here, it's a huge place. It's a huge market. The city's great. The town's great. The fans are great. The Chicago Bears should have a good football team. They just need to figure out how to put the right people in that building to win football games." And like you're saying, Kat, that young quarterback, man, he's got an arm. You can see why they took him number one. You can see all the talent. You can see all the things they have for him. They have a pass rusher. They have They have a very good cornerback. They have young offensive line. They have good receivers. They have a good young receiver. You say, okay, I'm gonna build the line of scrimmage and change this whole team around. Identify the talent we need and build the team that the Chicago Bears need to win football games. But you got to go in that building and you got to be honest with everybody in there. And when they give you their opinion, you have to put them on a grease board and say, okay, tell me what you believe in. Tell me how to change this team and tell me why it hasn't worked for you in this many years.
Yeah, you have to be able to be honest with yourself. I talked to someone who's exceptionally close to Dan Quinn, and he said when they brought in the final three, Eberflus, Jim Caldwell, and Dan Quinn, Dan wanted the job. He said he got on the airplane to come visit Chicago, and they flew him in coach. He said, now, that's just not how big market, that's not how professional teams operate. He said,
you almost don't believe that. You almost don't want to, like, you don't believe that, right? You almost wouldn't, like, if someone told me that, I'd move on and say, this guy's lying to me. But you're not, Cap.
right, it's the truth. And he said, look, Dan was like, 30 out of the 32 teams are flying you in on the owner's private jet. He said, at least you're flying them in first class. You're sticking a coach in, the head coach potentially in the coach section. He said it tells you about, do they do things first class or not?
Yeah. Or the right way, right? Like that's the way you want to say it. Like, do we do things that win football games? And that's what doesn't seem like anybody. And I was there. No one on Halas Hall understands that everything that's done in that building either equals winning or losing football games. And they have to figure out that equation, Cap, going forward. And they have a lot of young guys in leadership positions there, right? They have Ryan Pose is a young guy. Ian Cunningham's a young guy. Thomas Brown now is a young guy. Eric Washington, I think he has 2 years of calling plays in Carolina. Young guy, right? It's just a very interesting situation they have now. And the only thing you can hope is they trip and fall on this young, dynamic play caller who can be a head coach who can lead men.
In terms of what you've seen from Caleb and the way that the Detroit game played out on Thanksgiving Day, you have just a great depth of knowledge of how things should be. When I watch tape with you, I'm like, wow, I didn't see that. You do. So take me through the final minute or so and how it should have been handled and how much blame goes on the staff and how much should go on the quarterback.
Very interesting situation there, especially when, on that. Let's talk about the sack play, right? Or what ended up being a quarterback draw, either called from the sideline or Caleb called it. Let's talk about Larry Borum there at right tackle. First, Curran came in at right tackle. I don't know if he got injured or they took him out because of play. So that tells me right away that he didn't get very many reps at right tackle during the week, right? So maybe he doesn't know who to block on that quarterback draw. Right. So you have a guy there who doesn't know what they're doing. It looks like Caleb took too long on the quarterback draw, and then he takes a sack, and everyone's discombobulated, and they're trying to get guys to come back to line up. And for some reason, Cole Kmet and DJ Moore are either not lined up properly or they call a different play and they have to switch on and off the line. Cole Kmet was on the line, off the line, then he switched to on, and that took so long. And then you're screaming, Cap, take a timeout, right? Like, you can see that your team's discombobulated. There's 9 guys on the sideline. I think it was Travis Homer, the running back was on the sideline. Everybody was saying, go, 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 and they weren't. And Caleb, for some reason, was trying to check to another play. I think he said in the post-game comments that he realized that play wasn't going to get to the end zone, so he changed the play, which doesn't even make sense since you have a timeout, right? That doesn't even compute in my brain. He's taking too long. That's the second week in a row now. Thomas Brown called quarterback run. He got hit and it affected him, right? So maybe we got to think about calling that again. It's just that was a total, everyone's commenting on it. It was a total mess up by the coaching staff, by the quarterback, by the players. But you're Coach Eberflus, man. You're on the sideline. I'm the head guy. I call timeout. I yell at people, right, for like not being ready for that situation. And then I blame myself for, okay, why aren't we ready for that situation? Why haven't we gone over that? But everyone knows a Mayday field goal takes about 20 seconds. 20. Mayday means, Cap, the field goal's ready. Units ready on the sideline. They call Mayday. They run on. You don't need a timeout. Everyone's yelling Mayday, Mayday. Field goal team on. Offense off, or whoever's on the field goal team stays on, and we get the ball kicked without taking a timeout. So everyone understands that Mayday situation. That's all been practiced. Why you wouldn't take a time out there, I'll never know. The young quarterback has to sit in a room with Thomas Brown, Kerry Joseph, his quarterback coach. They have to go over situational football. Man, we got to get off the ground here. The center is part of it, right? The center's got to get everybody going. The older guys got Cole Kmet. You got to line up correctly there on the outside, on the line of scrimmage. You got to not get the penalties, Cole Kmet. I'm the center. Stop blocking guys, Cole Kmet, when you run routes. Okay, just run your route. So there's just a lot going on there. We hear about these details from these guys, and look, it fell on Coach Eberflus's door. That's where it fell, Cap. That's who got fired. But it's the second guy who's been fired now, with the players who keep complaining about that people aren't putting them in position to win. How many people are the Chicago Bears going to fire before they realize maybe they have a player problem? Also,
it's a great question. When you looked at that draw play, and I saw Chase Daniel said that he thought that was absolutely, like you said, a draw, and now he gets sacked. There's 32 seconds or thereabouts. Does Caleb have the ability, or the quarterbacks that you were the center for, did they have the ability, as everything is discombobulated, melting down, now we're down to 20 seconds, 19, 18, did Jay Cutler or Rex Grossman or whoever it was have the ability to go timeout? Because Caleb said, that's the coach's call. I just am executing what they're telling me.
see, he can, Cap, but remember how young he is, right? He is a very young quarterback, man. Just in his, I mean, I know we all want him to be great, and sometimes he makes plays and throws that makes us all say, wow, man. But I think eventually he would admit that he handled that situation totally wrong. And if he could have it back, maybe he would take a timeout, right? But he is a rookie quarterback, and I don't know a lot of rookie quarterbacks who would take the time out in that situation. That would be impressive, right? Some guys could, but remember, on this team, who do you have who's been here that long, who has that kind of cachet to say that would just call timeout, right? I mean, they don't call timeout, this team. They'd rather talk about how you should call timeout after the game, right? That's what the players would rather do, these guys, the leaders on the team. So it's very interesting to watch this team operate, but it is Coach Eberflus's job, right? It is his job to take over and say timeout. And yeah, guys, that was wrong. I want to say that timeout, but you can't want to say that timeout after the game, right? Cap me.
Right. All right, I think we're having a little audio issue with Olin. We'll try and get him back on here in a moment. If you have a question, a comment, a thought, we've got one of the best to ever do it, the great Olin Kreutz, and we're so lucky to have him as part of our recap channel here on YouTube. And we'll get
Sorry,
there.
Cap.
We go. We got all good. We got him right back in there.
Are we there?
In terms of how you orchestrate a search now, you know, from what I'm hearing, this is a 6-game or 5-game audition for Thomas Brown. In my world, I can't hire a guy. I don't care. What are we, Antonio Pierce and the Raiders? Like, I don't understand why you would bring Thomas Brown, give him this job and not Washington or Hightower, and let Thomas keep working with Caleb. But I don't care what they do over the next 5 games. I can't hire him as the head coach. What do you think? Yeah, I got you. I've got you. You got me? You got me there, Olin? We'll try and get Olin reestablished. That's what makes no sense to me, folks. Why would they decide to hire a guy who a year ago was fired in Carolina? I'm not saying it was his fault. Bryce Young had a terrible year. But why would you hire a guy who has very little experience as a play caller, very little experience in leading a room of 53 men? I'm sure he's a good coach. I'm sure guys like him. I'm sure he's going to hold guys accountable. I hear very good things about him. We're talking about the next 3 to 4 years. You have to be contending for a Super Bowl with Caleb on a rookie contract. I think I got Olin back now.
Yeah, sorry about the Cap.
Yeah, all good. I was just saying that I can't hire Thomas Brown as my head coach. I don't care what happens over the next 5 games, because I got to get somebody over the next 3 years. That's my window to win with my guy on a rookie quarterback contract. I don't understand how, whatever happens, how they could consider him. And I'm being told this is a 5-game audition. What do you think?
A very interesting guy. A guy it seems that the players gravitate to use the word aura around him. It's just for a guy who's been around the NFL a long time, it's hard for me to imagine that a guy with that much aura, that much promise, has been to so many different teams, right? And the Rams, he went to Carolina, didn't work out there. Obviously, Carolina was a bad situation. He came here. He's in another bad situation, Cap. I don't know. It's hard for me to say, not being around Thomas Brown. I'm like you. Like, I can't imagine it, right? I can't imagine a guy going from pass game coordinator to coaching with Frank Wright, where Frank Wright took the offensive plays back from him. I've watched him the last 2 weeks. I mean, Caleb's played better. I wouldn't say the offense has been incredible. I think they're averaging under 20 points a game. They haven't scored a lot. That first half was one of the worst first halves I've seen by an offense in years around here, right? So, but a leader of men is hard to find. A guy who's attention to detail, who can handle the job, get guys moving in the right direction. If they were considering hiring him for OC or head coach job, why not give him a shot? Why not take a look? But I don't see it happening at the end of the year, right, Cap? And it's just kind of the same guys who hired Coach Eberflus, right? The same guys who hired Shane Waldron, the same guys who hired Luke Getsy. Those same guys, Cap, are in the same seats, right? Here we go again. What have they learned, right? And it's not the same. Kevin Warren is different, and he gives you a little bit of hope. Ryan Poles is different, right? He seems like he makes a lot of good decisions. He gives you a little bit of hope. Has he learned? What has he learned about this building? He said on a Pat McAfee show, I was hired to change the cycle. I was pissed off, right? When RG3 said about me that it's the same cycle. And look, RG3 ends up correct, right? Again, it's the same. And you end up right. But what have you learned? What have you learned going through this? What are you going to change? Those are the things that I think someone needs to ask them somewhere in that building, like Cap, 5 weeks ago. When you realize your coach, while calling plays, had a game management problem, what was done to help him? Well, what was done to help him in that position? What was done to help him manage games in late game critical situations? Because remember now, this team that the head coach just got fired took 3 playoff teams to the final bell. And you would say that their defense, their play caller on defense, not the head coach, the play caller on defense, the guy who just went up against the hottest head coach in the NFL, just put on a show. If you just talk about defense, just talk about red zone defense and holding the Lions, which no one has done, out of the end zone. Coach Eberflus still deserves credit for that, right? So you lose an elite defensive play caller. What's next, right? What's next for this team is going to be very interesting to watch what the decision makers, Cap, have figured out through these years.
They talk about their leadership and their leadership council and their culture up there. And now they're going to go to San Francisco, a team that's reeling with injury upon injury. How do you think the Bears respond? Not win or loss, but how do they respond? Is it like the substitute teacher, or do they respond in a positive fashion?
Well, I think they'll have energy, right, to play for Thomas Brown, to play for Eric Washington. I think they'll have a lot of energy because a lot of change has happened in the building, and it seems like they've been asking for it. So they got what they've been asking for here, and now they got a lot of change. And, the players have done enough to win. I don't know. We should have took the timeout. We should have took the timeout in Washington. We should have done this. We should have done that. It's just very interesting to watch this team. How do they respond on the road in San Francisco versus Kyle Shanahan? Guess what? Eric Washington, here's your prize for your play calling. You get Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers, right? But that's either a tough task or that's opportunity at your doorstep, right? It just depends on the way you approach it. But I expect that, Cap. But eventually they got to have guys in that building who are good at organizing the game plan, who are good at making game plan adjustments, who are good at getting things moving in the right direction. I don't know, like at halftime, when the offense made a change, like one thing we don't know is how much did Eberflus have to do with that, right? How much does he have to do with the offensive concepts changing? The ones he said was about to pop, and they sure did, right? They did pop in the game. I thought he was crazy when he said that, but he said it. And next thing you know, they're scoring points. The young quarterbacks making throws, and they're again in the game to either tie it up or win it. So I expect them to respond with some energy, Cap. If energy is going to be enough, is it going to be enough to beat Kyle Shanahan and San Francisco 49ers at home? That I don't know. They have a really rough schedule for a young head coach who wants to do an audition.
Yeah, Green Bay on the road, Minnesota on the road, home with Detroit. and then you have the Niners and the Seahawks.
If he goes up there and beats LaFleur, hire him. Right? If he goes up there and beats Matt LaFleur and breaks that, hire. But we're tough. And not only that, but you have to be a head coach of a staff that you didn't put together, right? So can he lead guys that he didn't hire? That's not the way he would arrange the staff. I wonder if there's someone out there that he wants to bring in to help him with game management. I'm sure he'll still be the one calling plays, because who else? Who else is on that staff that can call plays? He's fired the OC, moved the pass game coordinator up. So I wonder, I don't know what Frank Wright is doing. I know he has a relationship with him, but just a name, a guy like that, a name out there who can help him in the booth, not only with offensive, because Cap, man, that's tedious work, man. I was talking to a former head coach today, and he said when you're the play caller and the head coach, which he did it sometimes, he said he finally told the GM, I can't do this. It's just a lot to do. He was telling me very rare are the Bill Parcells, right? The guys who can do both. Very rare are the Bill Belichick's, right? They're very rare guys to do both. We saw that with Coach Eberflus. That's why he was struggling, right? Very rare are the guys who can handle all that responsibility. Thomas Brown, man, best of luck to him. He ain't gonna be sleeping much these next 5 weeks. To get that opportunity is a big task, and you find out deep and dark in the middle of the night whether you really want to do this or not.
Yeah, before I let you go, what really concerns me is they asked Caleb when they fired Waldron and they brought in Thomas Brown. We heard a lot. Caleb addressed the team, apologized, said, I got that man fired. I didn't play well, blah, blah, blah. Guys said they liked his accountability. And then the next question was, what kind of relationship do you have with Thomas Brown? He goes, we didn't really interact much. My interactions were with Waldron. And then 19 days later, you've lost every game since, and he's your head coach.
Cap, listen, do you remember this is a long time ago for me. So for you, do you remember being 23?
Yeah.
Caleb has a ton of potential, man. Nobody doesn't watch Caleb and say, man, I can't wait. I want to see this kid develop. But I do remember how much I knew at 23 about what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And that was zero, right? And that's why when people tell me, well, Caleb said this, I ignore people when they say what the young man said, right? I'm watching him grow. As you know, Cap, you know me very well nowadays. I don't listen to a word that comes out of people's mouth. I turn the film on and I watch it, and the film tells me everything I need to know about the team, about the guy talking, about everything that's going. I don't really care what people say. The guy is 23 years old. The OC got fired. The head coach got fired. Caleb Williams has no idea what's going on in the Chicago Bears building. None. And you can take what he says if you want, right? If I was there, I would be like, Caleb, play quarterback. Let me handle this stuff. You go play quarterback. Hey, Olin, what we should do? No. Go work on your footwork. Go get out of my office. Work on your footwork. Running this building is a huge job, right? So when people say, oh, well, Olin, Caleb Williams said this, I don't even know if he knows what he's saying. I remember my first year in the NFL, Cap. I was holding on for dear life, man. I had no idea what Matt Cavanaugh was saying in the room. I had Tony Wise asking me who the point was, and I couldn't make the point. He's screaming at me, are you asking, are you telling? And I didn't know what I was saying. I had no idea, right? No clue what was going on. So the young quarterback, man, somebody get this kid some stability, right? This is what we heard about, Cap, right? Remember going to the draft. Why Mr. Williams didn't want his son here. Remember that. Remember what we heard about that. Yeah. We're watching it in real time. We're watching how you ruin a young quarterback in real time. So somebody up there at Halas Hall, Ryan Post, Kevin Warren, get your shit straight. Get this kid in the right direction. Start winning football games so me and you can stop talking about the 900 coaches who've been fired there at Halas Hall over the years.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to call Olin and go, yeah, I think they're firing Nagy. I think they're firing Fox. It's like, what? Here we are again.
Just a dog chasing his tail, man. I mean, I tweeted out the other day, Cap, an article done on me in 2009. I never forget sitting in a locker room in Baltimore, and they were asking me about Lovie Smith. And does Lovie Smith need to get fired? Same thing going on here. Right, I think we lost 30-7 that day, Baltimore. I think that was remember when they had that big snowstorm. They flew us in anyway.
Yep.
I think that was the game.
Yep.
And I just said, man, the Bears are broken from top to bottom, and I
remember the article.
Right. And next thing you know, I was sitting in front of Ted Phillips and Jerry Angela, and we were having a conversation about what did you mean by what you said. Well, here we sit in 2024. And I've defined many years as an analyst what I meant when I said that in 2024. And we'd like somebody there, anybody, to stand up and fix the damn thing.
You're the best. Appreciate you, my friend. You're the
All right,
greatest.
Cap, man.
Have a great day.
You too.
There he is, the great Olin Kreutz, future Hall of Famer. Thank you for watching all the coverage here on our channel today. Ryan McGuffey, I call it the Ryan McGuffey Show, our recap lunch hour. Now we went live with Olin Kreutz on a huge day in Chicago sports. It's first time ever the Bears have fired a coach in season, a head coach. It's never happened. The only other time they have ever changed coaches in season was when George Halas went off to the war. That's true. That's the only time. That's courtesy of Hembo from Get Up, the Mike Greenberg Get Up show. Anyway, I'm going to have a recap rush hour for you after I make a couple more calls. We'll get you the latest scoopage, give you a little nugget on maybe Bill Belichick. It's all coming up, so stay tuned on the channel. We're here for you. When something breaks, you think of us right here on the recap. Take that.
The days are shorter and the chill is setting in. Is your home ready to face the cold?
Feldco's energy-efficient windows can save you money and keep you warm this winter. Right now, buy one window and you'll get one free. Plus, no money down and no interest until 2026. Specifically designed for the Midwest, our windows are also backed by nearly 50 years of experience in the industry.
Buy one window, get one free, and soon. Call now.
Call 866 for Feldco.
Feldco Football Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco. For quality windows, siding, and doors, call 866-4FELDCO, Chicago's home renewal experts. Your Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Chevy dealers, the official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. Hooters. At Hooters, originality isn't just one thing, it's everything. World-famous wings and more, served up by the iconic Hooters girl. Hooters, always original. Dr. Pepper, an American original, just like our Chicago Bears. Grab an ice-cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. Special Olympics Illinois. Special Olympics Illinois, so I did. Learn more at SOILL.org. Apt. For the best appliances for football season, shop at Apt. Pleasing people since 1936. Find them at apt.com. Four Seasons, heating, plumbing, air conditioning, and electric. For all the right reasons, Four Seasons. When you're on the Tollway, peace of mind is just a call away. With the Illinois Tollway Star 999 service, help is always at your fingertips. Whether it's a flat tire or an unexpected breakdown, our dedicated team is here to assist you anytime and anywhere on the Tollway. Drive with confidence knowing that Star 999 is just a dial away. Remember, Star 999, we're always there when you need us.
Some days, you've got big things to care about. Like that. And that. Luckily, the Whirlpool Smart Range automatically updates itself with features like air fry. So you can worry less about keeping up with the latest tech and care more about keeping up with the latest trends. Say cheese. Everyday care, Whirlpool.
To see the full line of Whirlpool appliances, shop at Apt. Pleasing people since 1936.